Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
The Eagles blow another game, look awful. And the Phillies also blowing another week, looking awful. I'm John Kohlmeyer, packed house today. This is Sports Talk Philadelphia. The Eagles 0-2 so far in the season. A brutal loss versus the Rams this week. Carson not looking too good. We're going to be talking all that with my colleagues here. Tyler Small, Sam Long, Austin I forgot how to say your name.
Petalillo.
Well, Petalillo. And of course, I'm sorry. I apologize. You're a Panthers fan, so it's hard.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm irrelevant.
Why don't we start with Tyler? Give me your initial thoughts on this loss.
Obviously not good. I mean, I think there are some good takeaways you can get from it. I mean, the offensive line from last week to this week looked like a completely different team, and it's not kind of because it was injury-wise. Allowing 0 sacks and 121 rushing yards on only 26 attempts. Huge day for the offensive line. We'll get into Wentz talk, but not looking good for him. It's just a cold start, I think. It was pretty much that game was lost at that interception in the third quarter on the throw to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So we have a lot to talk about, but initial thoughts are obviously not good.
Yeah, I don't think any Eagles fans really expected us to start 0-2 this season. I mean, it's a pretty horrendous start. No side of the football has shown that they're elite in any aspect of the game. No really side of the football has even stepped up throughout the game. I mean, it seems when the offense is clicking, the defense is not clicking. The defense is clicking, the offense isn't. I mean, the Eagles just can't be filing on all cylinders this season yet. I mean, it's pretty disappointing to see throughout the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah, and really, like you said, every week it seems like there's a different problem. Like last week, it wasn't really the defense; it was more the offensive line. This week, the offensive line plays pretty well and protects Carson. And Carson seems to be the only consistent bad factor on the team. And the defense this week blew coverages left and right. The first Higbee touchdown, I don't know where anybody was, and then there was another one that Goff missed in the third quarter that should have been a touchdown. How are you guys grading the offense this week? Who stepped up and who needs to play better?
I thought the interior line looked good. I mean, you're going up against probably the best defensive player in the NFL in Aaron Donald, and he wasn't really able to get to the quarterback. That's a huge plus. I mean, it's a shame that everything around it didn't really work out in their favor, like the quarterback. And, Sanders had a big fumble that kind of set the tone early in the game. Kind of, you knew where that was going. But overall, I thought it was okay. I mean, aside from a few mistakes from Wentz, he looked okay, but, you're paying him all that money. He needs to look better than just okay.
Yeah, it's about time we start holding Wentz more accountable. I mean, last season,
yes,
throughout all the Eagles struggles, we were like, it's not all Wentz's fault. He's still doing good. And then these same issues are kind of rolling over into this season. It's like, maybe Wentz isn't maybe this guy that we thought. I mean, looking back 2 years ago, we thought he was going to be our franchise. He played amazing. He got us to the playoffs. He pretty much got us to the Super Bowl minus 2 weeks. And now we're fast forward to now, and he's just not that guy. That's what it's looking like right now.
I got to disagree with you now. I think we have to go right into Wentz talk now. I agree. I mean, he's had 20 throws this year in the first 2 weeks that were off the mark. 15 came from a clean pocket. Obviously, that's inexcusable. He has a 64.6 QBR. However, I think it's the matter of not having a run game that you can rely on. I mean, the fact that Sanders doesn't get more touches is unbelievable. He had 20 carries for 95 yards. If a running back is averaging 4.8 yards per attempt, give him the ball more. Wentz only trails 3 other quarterbacks on all 2-0 teams in throw attempts with 87 on the season. he's throwing the ball and he's not ready yet. He doesn't have his receivers yet. He doesn't have the chemistry yet because they haven't come back. So I think it's an overall team problem. But the fact that just a couple of years ago, Wentz was an MVP candidate, and now we're just completely throwing him under the bus thinking it's Jalen Hurts time, I think is way, way too early.
Well, I never went as far to say it's Jalen Hurts time. And going
If
back,
you say he's not that guy, then who else is it going to?
hold up, I'll get to that later.
Thank you, Trevor.
I think we're just the point is there's no more kid glove treatment for Carson anymore. There's no more excuses. We used it all up last year. We used it up. I agree with Sam. I think Carson needs to step up, and I don't think it's Jalen Hurts time yet. But I think a few more weeks of this, if he doesn't show any improvement, then something has to happen.
I don't think anyone gave him gloves, though. That's the thing. He was ripped apart. I mean, when Nick Foles took over for the Super Bowl, I was obviously one of the people advocating for Nick Foles to stay as well. But everyone wanted him to lose his job after he had a 13-3 career before tearing his ACL. So I think that he really never had kid gloves. Maybe last season to a certain extent, but with the injuries around him, how can you blame him?
Look, for me, Wentz has always been overrated for me. When you look at his MVP year, they played 2 playoff teams and they went 1-1. They played the 4th place finisher in the NFC West, the 4th place finisher in the NFC North, I believe. They played the 4th place finisher in the South. They played a weak AFC West. They didn't really play any big time teams. They beat one playoff team, and that was the 2017 Panthers. They lost to the Chiefs that year. To me, I never really saw it with Wentz. And, kind of going to your point, a run game is not going to help you throw, or it's not going to help when you throw 20 inaccurate passes with 15 of them coming in a clean pocket. A running back's not going to help with that. That's just mechanical issues. That's just his fault. And whether that's because Frank Reich's not there or John DeFilippo's not there, I mean, who knows? But for me, I was really never on the Wentz wagon. He's shown flashes, but it's year 5. Like, it's time to put up or shut up. You gave him all that money. It's go time. You got to show results at this point.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, I mean, it's hard to get the run game going also when you're down 21-3 in the first quarter. I mean, it's hard to run the ball when you're down that much points. I mean, obviously the play caller is going to want to throw more, but like I said before, I think all aspects of the Eagles are a complete disaster right now. I think the play calling is atrocious with Doug Peterson. I think the offense is just looking atrocious, especially with Wentz. I mean, he's just got to step up. I mean, like we've been saying, this is his 5th year now. I mean, the excuses are done with. I mean, he's got the weapons around him now. The offensive line looked good last week. I mean, he had the time to throw the ball. I mean, he's just got to throw better. I mean, I don't know. Wentz does not look good to me. I say you give him another couple weeks of this, he still looks the same. Just got to start being evaluation in the QB room.
And looking at their schedule, it does not get easy. Like,
No,
it's a tough schedule. I said at the start of the season they would go 8-8. I mean, let's say you get 2 wins against the Giants, you get a win against Washington, and a win against the Bengals. You're going to need to get 4 wins against, I think it's the Niners, the Packers, the Saints, the Ravens, the Cowboys twice. I don't know where they can get 4 other wins.
And I don't even think the Bengals game is a must-win. I mean,
yeah, that is definitely.
It is a must-win, but I don't even think they might lose this game. I mean, I wouldn't say the Bengals they look good against the Browns the other night. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we lost that game.
I think we could take the 49ers. I mean, if these injuries are longer than we thought for Jimmy G, Raheem Mostert, I'm not really too terrified of that offense with anyone else in there. Tevin Coleman isn't that great. Jerick McKinnon, he showed some flashes of greatness the other day, but there's nothing too terrifying. Nick Bose is out for the year now. I don't really think we have – I just think you're hyping up the 49ers a little too much as of right now. They haven't even looked amazing the last 2 weeks. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure when that game is. You might get Garoppolo back. You might get Mostert back.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I don't know what the schedule is off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge factor. I think the Bengals showed flashes in the past couple of weeks, but I think they're a very beatable team, of course, and that's all you really need to right the ship. I mean, the suspense of going throughout this week of practices after starting 0-2 is obviously pretty intense. There's going to be a lot of locker room feuds, it looks like, a lot of pointing fingers, hopefully not, but once you get that first win on the board, it doesn't matter who it's against. It could be against the worst team of football or the best. It's going to right the ship to a certain extent. So I think that's going to be huge for them to be able to go in. And we didn't talk about it, but with how crazy this week 2 was injury-wise, I can't believe there were more Eagles to fall. So we got to consider ourselves lucky with that.
But listen, we are going to get to the predictions for the Bengals game coming up. Spoiler alert, I'm not feeling great about it too. But let's go back to this game. Let's talk about Doug's performance because obviously there was that 2-point attempt that didn't make much sense to me. I want to know what you guys and just overall, how does Doug look these first 2 games of the season?
Feels like a lot of play calling has not been on point. I mean, not even the 2-point conversion. I mean, you're at the point of the game, you're down by multiple scores. I can see why he may have went for that. But I mean, at that point, I probably would have just taken the points. But even I think there's this instance where it was 4th and 1. It was a crucial drive of the game. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but every time we gave Miles Sanders the ball, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, he got it every single time. 4th and 1, Wentz is not looking good. You throw a pass, I think it was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside on 4th and 1. I mean, that's a joke right there when you got Miles Sanders, who's been, like you said earlier, Tyler, he was averaging 4.5 yards per carry last game. I mean, just instances where that just makes you feel brain dead. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I still think, again, I think you got to give him a lot more touches. I've always been a huge advocate for going for 2, not just in those situations to make it a 10-point game as opposed to 11, but just overall, because if you do it twice in a game, you have over a 50% chance to get at least one of them. So it's just kind of simple math. However, in that situation, I get it because it is back in 2019, the 3rd most efficient offense in football was the Rams. So you got to score points. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me there. Play call, you're 100% right and all that. But at the same time, I just really think that Goff played a phenomenal game. I mean, three touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 20 for 27, 267 yards. He was pretty untouchable, and the only thing that really goes to blame against that is the linebackers coach just being able to figure out how to guard a tight end.
He started 13 of 13.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, Caleb, with the Arcega-Whiteside interception, that was their best drive, I think, since the first drive of the season against Washington, where they were moving and the ball they were moving all the way down the field, and then he just forces a throw into one of the worst receivers in the league. And I don't understand the thinking there, and I don't even understand why this guy's even on the field. And here's a quote I found, a little gem I found, Howie in the preseason, hyping up Arcega-Whiteside in training camp. He looks different. Quote, this is a quote. He looks different. He's Joel Embiid down in the box, boxing these guys out. No, I haven't seen that at all, Howie. And I want to see something from the man can't even catch the ball right now. Everything's falling apart for the Eagles. But yeah, let's move into the Bengals preview this week. Give me a score prediction. I'm not feeling great about it. What do you guys think?
I got the Eagles winning 17-14. I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. It's going to be a close game the whole time. I think the Eagles are going to be pretty sloppy this game. I really don't think they're going to clean up much of what was last week. They're just versing a pretty bad team in the Bengals, but this is a must-win game for the Eagles. I mean, if you fall 0-3, and then I think they have 49ers the following week, if you have that, you got a chance to go 0-4 then, not looking good for the Eagles, but this is a must-win week for them.
I think they put a little bit more points up than that. I think it really isn't a game. I think that it's a 35-17 game. I think that the Eagles really make a statement win, and it comes down to nothing more than you can't predict football. I think that's all it comes down to. I think it's a huge statement win for the Eagles to kind of rewrite their season because, again, if there's any division you want to be in that isn't with a good record, it's the NFC East. So being able to hopefully back that and make a statement just for the season, I think that the Eagles win big.
I think the Eagles D-line is going to feast this week. The Bengals offensive line is basically a glorified easy pass. They can't stop anybody. I think the Eagles win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles 28-17 in this one. I think we saw with the Bengals against the Browns last week. While Joe Burrow and Tyler Boyd have a connection that could be absolutely scary for our secondary, I mean, their defense is still pretty exploitable. We saw the Browns' backfield absolutely just plow through the Bengals last week. I mean, it's possible just for the Eagles to get something going. I think it's pretty easy.
All right, not a whole lot of love for my man Joe Burrow. But what do you guys need to see from Carson this week to kind of settle the flames a little bit and, you know, move past all this? Is there a controversy quarterback-wise for this team, or what do you think?
It's not a controversy yet, but when they get the number 1 overall pick and take Trevor Lawrence, there'll be a controversy then maybe. But with me, I think when he needs to do a better job at processing the field, kind of going through his reads. That seemed like a little bit of a problem. And just no stupid interceptions. No, don't force the ball into double coverage, like on that, drive-killing interception. And I think it was the third quarter. Just he's got to be better, in between the ears. He's got physical talent. He's just got to do better between the ears. And against the Bengals defense, that leaves a lot to be desired. I think he will.
Yeah, he really needs to focus up this game. I mean, a lot of the throws last game, the guy was wide open. He just overthrew him. Either he's short or he threw it over his head. Even a lot of times when he's throwing the tight ends to Goddard and Ertz, a lot of times he leads them too high, puts them at risk to get injured most of the time. Wentz does that a lot. You just got to clean up little simple things and he'll be back. But it's not looking good for Wentz right now.
Go ahead, Sam. You're shaking your head.
No, I was agreeing. Wentz is not looking good right now. That was a head shake. No for Wentz. He's definitely going to need to pick it up. Like Austin was saying, no more sloppy interceptions. I think if we get 2 more games where Wentz is throwing 1-2 interceptions, he's having a fumble, I think by week 5 we can have a serious quarterback controversy on our hands.
I disagree with all that. I think you need to get him actual targets, actual threats. I mean, the fact that you have more faith in Dallas Goedert and even Zach Ertz, who is kind of a shell of himself so far, before you go to any wide receiver that you're comfortable with him throwing to. I mean, you guys said it before, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, yeah, he's a terrible receiver. However, he's their 3rd or 4th best option and the wideout position. I mean, Jackson being your number 1 guy, your wide receiver 1, is kind of a joke. And the fact that you're hoping on Rager to try and be something big in only his 2nd week in the NFL, I think he needs weapons around him before that. But he obviously has stuff to work on.
Yeah, and just speaking on that, I did say before the season, I thought the wide receiver core was one of their biggest strengths on this team. That was way off. Jackson is not a possession guy like they were using him in this game.
Yeah.
Very disappointing all around this game. It really was like an arrow to the heart for me. But I'm going to bring in Shane Nolan here, our Phillies colleague, and we're going to talk a little season coming to a close here for the Phils. They got 7 games left. They're playing right now, and they're getting beat pretty bad. So Shane, welcome. Let's talk a little Phillies. Give me your take on the last week or so.
Yeah, so the last week for the Phillies haven't been going so good. They dropped their last game to the Nationals last night, and before that they lost to the Blue Jays. And in their past 2 games, they've only scored 1 run against two pitchers who had a 7+ ERA, which isn't great at all. And obviously right now they're losing 5-1, and their top hitters are 0 for 2, 0 for 3. Harper's 0 for 2. Gregorius is 0 for 3. Ramuto's 0 for 2. And obviously their bullpen, 2 weeks ago when the start of the month, they had a 7-game series against the Miami Marlins, and they were actually winning their first game 6-3, and the bullpen came in and blew that lead. And actually after that game, there was a tweet that said if the bullpen didn't blow all the games that they did, the Phillies would actually be 30-9 in the season. And so they'd be the best team in baseball right now if it wasn't for the bullpen mainly.
Yeah, and speaking on that bullpen, 7.17 ERA, which, little fun fact here, only 2 teams have ever finished above a 7 ERA, and one of those teams was the 1930 Phillies, which is just another slap in the heart. The losingest team in the history of sports, losing yet again. So what needs to happen here to make a solid push into the playoffs? Obviously, they did get Realmuto back today. That is good news. But other than that, what do you guys think?
I think above all else, baseball is a sick sport. I mean, especially when you're going into a 3-game series. I've said it and I've said it again, even though Nola hasn't had a good past couple of outings. If you have that 1-2 monster of him and Wheeler, Bryce Harper said he'd take them over anyone. That's all you really need. And then high leverage guys in the bullpen. Bullpen's obviously scary right now. They still have for a WAR negative just coming out of the bullpen, where at the same time you look at this incredible offense. They have the 8th highest OPS plus in all of baseball, and their weighted run characterized is second highest in baseball. So the offense will have to carry them, get hot at the right time. And you see that coming from some guys. I mean, Alec Bowman's been playing out of his mind with a 1.76 OPS. Didi's with a 976 OPS. And Harper, even though he's been battling through some injuries, has the 924 OPS. So even though it's not a full lineup, when they are full, they have what I think is the best offense in baseball.
They just need to do whatever it takes to get in the playoffs, because when you get into the postseason, anything can happen. You know, I've seen an 83 and 78 win Cardinal team win the whole World Series. You know, you don't have to be this dominant world beater. You know, you just have to get hot at the right time. You know, that's how baseball is. It's not like football or basketball or hockey where talent wins out. Like, you have to, it's just a matter of getting in a rhythm at the right time. Everybody's clicking on all cylinders, and the Phillies have the talent. It's just a matter of having every part become a cohesive unit and get hot at the right time, you know. And listen, it's going to be a tough series against the Rays, one of the best teams in baseball. This is going to come down to the final day, I think. It's going to be some nail biting in Philadelphia.
I mean, you just look at the Nationals, just going off your point, 19 and 31 to start the season last year. Yeah. They go on and win the whole thing as a second wild card team. So it's obviously happened. If any year it'll happen, it will be this year with the expanded playoffs and 8 teams per conference getting in.
But the thing is with the Phillies, the past 2 seasons in September, they've collapsed. So they don't have that going for them right now, especially with what's going on, dropping their past 3 games.
I feel like they're in a pretty bad situation right now, because even if they do make the playoffs, I don't think they're going to do anything. And if they do make the playoffs, it's a higher possibility for Matt Klentak to come back. And I feel like for the Eagles, I mean, not for the Eagles, but for the Phillies to go that next step for them to become contenders, I feel they have to get rid of Matt Klentak, because he's been the person that's been building this team for the past couple of years. He's known the bullpen's been a glaring need for the past couple of years. He hasn't addressed it at all during the trade deadlines. He hasn't addressed it during free agency. He hasn't done any of that, and it's been showing the past couple of years for the Phillies.
When was the last time the Phillies made the playoffs? Was that 2011?
Yeah,
2012 maybe. It's been a while.
2011.
Like, I don't think there are any players from those teams. You know,
No.
like I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on this, because like me personally, I'm not a Phillies fan, but like I guess you can consider it a rebuild. Like, would you say this has been successful?
Not at all.
Absolutely.
I think for them.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think for them, it's been too long of a rebuild, because it's been 8-9 years since they made the playoffs, and at least they probably should have made the playoffs the past 2 years, but it hasn't happened because 1, their bullpen, and 2, their manager last year wasn't the best either. So
I don't know. I think baseball, again, how weird of a sport it is, has these long, drawn-out rebuilds, and that's the key of it. I mean, we look at the Kansas City Royals winning back in 2015. Their rebuild, if you really look back, was a 14-year process. And for the Phillies to kind of get back into it, they're not even at their peak yet, because they obviously need some bullpen help, and they're waiting for pieces to develop, whether it is Howard that falls into that back spot, and they've given away some pieces. It's the Sixto Sanchez trade really hurts to see him go. However, just looking at the framework of it all, it still seems that they're waiting to get to their peak. But right now, since they have people locked up for a while, as long as they re-sign guys like JT Realmuto and others, it looks like it should still be a success, and it still looks like it's on an upswing, because this season, it's tough to compare it to 162 games, but looks like it's on a better path than last year because of what Shane pointed out, how much they fell in September.
And that Sixto trade is going to look terrible if they don't bring back Realmuto.
Well, what was it? Yesterday, Matt Klentak had an interview with the media, and he basically said that they traded for Realmuto for 2 years, for just 2 years.
Quote, actually, on that, he said, "We would love to have JT, but when you make that trade, you're looking for 2 years of control, and you know that." So Sixto looked really good against us. He looked good this year, but we've had 2 productive years with JT as well. So it sounds like Klentak's kind of throwing in the towel here. I hope not, but.
See, I hope not too. I actually never heard that, but the fact of the matter being that if you give away that many assets, yeah, it's obviously for 2 years of team control of arbitration. However, you do that with a future plan, because you realize that the Phillies window isn't 2 years, because that's a centerpiece that you need for someone that if the catching position was the last position needed for, if they had a solid bullpen alongside a top 3 to 5 guys in the pitching rotation. So the fact that they're basically using him as a 2-year rental doesn't make much sense if they don't re-sign.
And that Sixto trade, it hurts to see because if you look at it, a lot of our young guys have never really pulled through for us. I mean, if you look at Mickey Moniak, I mean, that guy was our first overall pick probably like 5 years ago. I mean, he made his first debut the other night, but like he's not doing anything. I mean, not really any youth has stepped up in the system for us. And then the one piece we trade away, he is doing some in the MLB. So that's kind of sucky to see.
Who was the last homegrown prospect to turn out for the Phillies?
Nola.
Yeah.
I would say no. I mean, right now, Alec Boehm. The way
Yeah,
he's
he looks good.
now, but small sample size right now.
Bone's off to a good start. I think we got to give Moniak a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
He's really like the fact that he was put into this situation. I think he's going to be more of a depth piece for the playoffs, but to have your first month of the season basically be playoff potential baseball, I don't know how I would handle that.
All right. Well, that was Phillies talk. And we're going to move on to our stars of the week. My new favorite segment. So this week, my star is Jamal Adams, safety for the Seahawks. Obviously, huge trade before the season to get him 2 first-round picks, but looks like it's paying off. 10 tackles, 1 sack. He saved the touchdown on one Newton scramble, I think in the third, and he's just that playmaker. He's really basically their Russell Wilson on defense. Whatever Russell is playmaking-wise for their offense, Jamal Adams is for their defense, and that's something I think the Eagles are kind of lacking in, a big playmaker like that. And he had a great week. I think he was one of the shining stars of that game. But what about you guys?
Yeah, star I have is Cam Newton. Even though the Patriots lost, he looked tremendous the other night. He definitely looked like he was back in his MVP form. The big thing about that is he's only got $550,000 guaranteed for this season. There's so many other quarterbacks that are getting paid more than him. And right now he looks like a top 10 quarterback the way he played the other night. So it's nice to see Cam back in the way he was because he's a very underrated player in this league.
That's mine. I mean, I'm a huge Panthers fan, and I've heard for months and years how Cam's cooked, Cam's this, Cam's that. I mean, this was no surprise. This is Cam Newton all along. He just had to get healthy. And why my team didn't bring him back, I don't know. I'm not in charge of those decisions. I wish I was. But for me, it's Cam Newton. I mean, he threw for 400 yards. He ran in a touchdown. He ran or passed for a touchdown. I mean, listen, he never left. And I think the NFL, they let Bill Belichick get Cam Newton. Like, that's a cheat code. Like, that's unfair.
Here, I'll go next just because I used my time last time to talk about Luke Voigt for the New York Yankees. Now I just decided I'm going to make this segment about players that you should know about that you probably don't. You've probably heard the name Nelson Cruz. He's been in baseball since 2005. 2020, he's the 39-year-old man about to be 40. He has a 314, 403, 623 slash with a 1.026 OPS. He has 16 home runs, only 5 behind for the major league record, or leader, I should say. And he is just playing out of his mind. I mean, he is an MVP candidate. He has the 7th highest WAR of offensive players in the American League. And you only hear about guys like Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, even Jose Ramirez of late. But the fact that he is even in the conversation, he's probably going to receive votes as a 40-year-old man. That's just a middle-aged father. Like, I cannot believe he is playing out of his mind. He is one of the most consistent bats in baseball, only at a low 32 RBIs this season because he's playing for the Twins, one of the best offenses in baseball. So he doesn't have a lot of opportunities with players on without getting hit in on their own or hitting themselves in. But from 2015 to 2020, when he was a 34-year-old man to 39, he has 127 doubles, 220 home runs, 554 RBIs. The guy is just an ageless wonder, and he doesn't get talked about enough.
Big Nelson Cruz fan. Not because of what he does, but because he helped the Cardinals win the World Series in 2011 because he didn't know how to field a fly ball in that wacky Game 6. But going off of that, I want to make another addition. Albert Pujols, past Willie Mays in the home run.
That's what I was just going to say.
I mean, he is my favorite player since I was a little kid. He's why I'm a Cardinals fan. I got to give it to him. It's Albert Pujols, too.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, you want to?
Well, I don't have a star. My star was up in the air. I was all amped to come in and talk about Super Bowl winner Tyrod Taylor, LA Chargers quarterback. What happened this week? How do you get injured before the game starts? Justin Herbert goes, and I mean, yeah, he does okay. Let's talk about Tyrod Taylor's week 1 stats. 16 for 30, 208 yards. He won the game. He didn't throw a single touchdown. This man doesn't even have to try to win a game. I don't understand it. Everywhere he goes, look at his stats on the Bills from 2015 to 2017. They aren't even terrible. He was pretty above average. They had a winning season at one point. What were you saying?
Took him to the playoffs, 2017.
They did take him to the playoffs in 2017. You're absolutely right. And before the game, Justin Herbert went in the locker room, punched Tyrod in the lungs and said, "The future's now, old man. Put him out for the game." It's ridiculous. I mean, they're still saying, yeah, he's going to be the starter. You're absolutely right. He's going to be a starter. He's a Super Bowl winner, and they're going to get him back in there. I put $20 on Tyrod this week. I was so confident in him throwing more than 2 touchdowns and having over 254 yards that I wagered my hard-earned cash on him just to be let down. I got the money back, but it's sitting there. It's waiting for Tyrod to play again. And just wait. You guys all say, oh, he's Tyrod Taylor. He's mediocre. He is going to come back with a vengeance and take the LA Chargers to the Super Bowl and win this year. Prediction.
What, in Madden?
No, real life.
Bold predictions from Sam.
Better record than the Eagles.
Another fun fact about Tyrod Taylor. I don't know if you guys know 97.5 Mike Missinelli. Tyron Johnson and Tyrod Taylor are the same person. It's pretty crazy. We should put up a side-by-side picture. It's crazy. But yeah, that's it for this week of Sports Talk Philadelphia. Thanks for joining us. Rowdy paddle today. Rowdy. All right.